Welcome back to another session in the TAE certification series. In section 8.1, we talked about where the TAS test automation solution could use some improvements. Now, in section 8.2, we are on to the next step, which is like actually planning how to make those changes happen. But before we start making any change, we do need to remember that every tweak, big or small, it needs to be thought about carefully. You have already put a lot of work into building the test automation solution with its test automation framework and all those component libraries, etc. So you need to be careful as even tiny changes can affect with how well the TAS runs. Okay, so now we will discuss the few things that you need to think about before making any changes. And the first one is identify changes in the test environment components. Suppose you want to add a new feature to your test automation solution that allows it to test mobile applications in addition to the web applications. So you're already testing web application, but now you want to be able to test mobile app as well. Okay, so now this new requirement may require changes to the testing software to support mobile testing, updating or creating new function libraries specific to mobile application, and possible making sure that the operating system supports the required mobile testing tools. So adding mobile testing capabilities could slow down the TAS if it's not optimized properly. So, and it can also introduce new bugs or performance issues that were not present when the TAS was only used for testing web applications. So each change must be carefully considered for its potential impact on the overall performance. So even with the new mobile testing feature, your TAS should still run all tests. Whether it's web and mobile, both should run efficiently. So the goal is to maintain or improve the efficiency of the TAS, not to slow it down or make it more complex without any benefit. Okay, so the next one. So instead of adding all mobile testing features at once, you should start by integrating a basic mobile testing feature and then run a few test scripts to see that how it affects the TAS. So by making incremental changes, you can identify and address any issues early on without overwhelming the system with too many changes all at the same time. And then after successfully running a limited set of mobile tests and confirming that they are not negatively impacting the TAS, you can then proceed to fully implement the mobile testing feature. This might involve updating the entire TAS to support a wider range of mobile tests. Now, before officially rolling out the new mobile testing feature, you will have to run a full regression test. This means running all of your existing automated tests, which will include both web and mobile tests, to make sure that everything still works correctly and that the new feature has not introduced any new problems. As you will run the full regression pack, you might find out that few of the web tests they are failing due to the changes which are made for mobile testing. So these errors need to be identified and resolved before the new feature can be fully integrated. If a web test fails, you can use detailed reports, you can use logs and data analysis to identify that if the failure was caused by the new mobile testing feature or was there any other issue. So by pinpointing the root cause, you can make sure that any problems they are addressed directly and the TAS is stable and reliable. Second one is increase efficiency and effectiveness of core TAS function libraries. As you use the TAS over time, you will find more efficient methods to carry out tasks. And this can come from experience, it can come from user feedback or any new industry practices. So continuous learning and improvement helps you find better ways to automate testing. It also saves time and resources. Optimizing code means that rewriting parts of the code to make them run faster or use less memory, like OS libraries. So new version of operating systems come with better tools and features. So using these can make tasks more reliable, more efficient, and it boosts the overall performance of the TAS. Once you have identified and implemented these optimizations and updates, then add them to the core function libraries. These libraries are like the building blocks for all the projects in the TAS. And updating them means that all current and future projects will get the benefits, and making everything more efficient and better performing. And this keeps the TAS up to date with the latest best practices and tech advancements. Number 3, target multiple functions that act on the same control type for consolidation. When an automated test is executed, it often needs to interact with the graphical user interface GUI of the application. Interrogation means that the automated tests ask questions about the elements, or you can also call them controls, in the GUI, like buttons, drop-downs, text fields, etc. It gathers information such as whether the element is visible or hidden, whether it's enabled or disabled, what is its size, and what is the data, what data it holds. So once the test has this information, it can then perform actions. For example, it can select an item from a drop-down list. It can type text into a field or read a value from a field. There are many different functions that can get information from or interact with these GUI controls. Some of these functions are very specific. For example, one might only work with drop-down list, but others are more generic and they can work with various type of controls. So instead of having many separate specialized functions, you can create a more versatile function that can handle different tasks by specifying what kind of function it should use as one of its inputs. So this way you can simplify the code and you can also reduce the amount of maintenance needed. Okay, so now let's understand it with an example where you are building a test automation tool to test an online shopping website. Okay, so there are different controls on the product page, like drop down menu for selecting quantity and a text field for entering a discount code. So initially there might be two separate functions for each control type, right? So it can be select quantity from drop down, and then you can select 2. And then for the text field, it can be enter discount code in field, and there is a discount code given. Okay, so this becomes hard to manage, especially as the number of controls and function grows. And the goal here is to consolidate these commands. So the automation tool can be designed with a more generic function that works across different control types. So for example, a single function like interact with control can handle all these tasks, and then as a parameter we have control type, action, value. Then you can specify the control type, drop down, text field, the action you want to perform. It can be select or enter texts, and any relevant value, and it can be quantity or discount code. So I hope that this helps understanding this concept. Okay, moving on to number 4. Refactor the TAA to accommodate changes in the SUT. Okay, so over time, as the SUT undergoes updates and changes, the TAS will also need to be updated to keep up with these changes so that the test remains relevant and effective. Now, as the system being tested, it evolves, The overall structure and the design of the TAA must also improve. This makes sure that the newer and more advanced version of the system can still be tested effectively. So when adding a new feature or updating the test automation solution, it is very important not to just quickly attach new parts. So over here it's referred as a bolt-on manner. So instead these changes should be carefully thought out and integrated into the overall design of the automated solution. And by integrating changes at the architectural level, the test automation solution will be better prepared to handle new features of the application being tested. So when new testing scripts are needed, the underlying system will already have the necessary components to support them, which makes the integration smoother. Next one is number 5, naming conventions and standardization. As changes are introduced, naming conventions for new automation code and function libraries need to be consistent with previously defined standards. We already covered this in detail in section 4.3.2, so you can go back and watch that video. Now, let's take an example of a project where you are automating tests for a web application. When you started the project, you defined certain standards for naming your functions. For example, the function names can be test valid login, test invalid password. Okay. Now, as the project grows, you need to add new features and corresponding tests. So let's say that the application now includes a profile management feature. Now, instead of naming a new test function, something like check profile update, you should follow the existing convention and name it test profile update so that it's consistent. Because consistency in naming conventions, it keeps everything organized, understandable, and maintainable. So this avoids confusion and it makes collaboration among team members more effective. Number 6, evaluation of existing scripts for SUT revision/elimination. Okay, so as part of updating and enhancing the test automation solution, it's very important to regularly review the current test scripts to identify that how useful and valuable they still are. For example, if some tests take a long time to execute or they are complicated, it can be helpful to break them down into smaller, more manageable tests. And this makes the testing process faster and easier to understand. Now, the tests that are rarely used or not used at all, they can be removed. This reduces the overall number of tests and it also simplifies the TAS and it's easier to manage. So by removing unnecessary tests and simplifying the complex ones, it becomes clearer that which tests are important and which one need ongoing maintenance. And this helps keep the TAS focused and efficient. Now with this, we have come to the end of the content for this training. In the next session, we will do a few practice questions to review our knowledge and we'll enforce what we have learned. So looking forward to the practice session. Till then, take care and happy testing.